I told these folks, I said, hey, on your integration day, on your discovery day, just write in your, laugh, cry, sleep, eat, do all those again in the opposite order. Journal. Just write. Even if you don't know what you're writing, years from now, you might be able to get something. That happened to me. My first journal, I'll show it to you, man. One of those chicken scratch entries because I couldn't set the word apostle. And obviously I know what that means now. I bring that up because John looked at me and he said, nobody in the 9/11 groups that he's in, 9/11 survivors and all this stuff, he said, not that I know of, he said, nobody has told me or any of us about the healing power of these medicines. Are you fucking kidding me? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome aboard the Max Afterburner podcast, sponsored, powered, brought to you by the No Fallen Heroes Multiverse. Been a while, folks. Been a while, been a minute. Been a while because there's so many incredibly good things going on. I have so much to debrief you, and you're going to be blown away. This will be, without a doubt, one of the most incredible debriefs in the past 3-4 years of doing our medicine work, trying to help others heal. And man, so buckle up, Buttercup. We have a lot to cover. Before we get airborne, how about them Panthers, folks? Wow. Stanley Cup champions. Florida is the hockey capital of the world. For the past 5 seasons, hockey has been played until June in Florida. That means Stanley Cup playoffs. Lightning on the left coast, the Florida Panthers for the past 2 years. On the right coast, Stanley Cup champions 2024. Check this out. We're going to debrief the retreat out to the Do Good Ranch, but let me give you a little bit of a timeline. Left the Do Good Ranch at 10, 11 in the morning, Colorado, Mountain Time. Our ride in the van to the Montrose Airport, Montrose to Denver. Denver, delays. Denver to Fort Lauderdale. I think we landed at like 1 in the morning, man, after what I'm going to debrief you on. So, man, I was in it. 20 hours later, not even that. 18 hours later, whatever. I can't do public math, political science major. I'm at game 7 of the Stanley Cup finals. Somebody was going home with Lord Stanley's Cup that Monday night. Me and my boys, Matthew and Jack, my hockey boys, they grew up, grew up hockey, Chicago Blackhawks during that dynasty. They started skating up there. Matthew started playing hockey. I think Jack started playing a little bit of hockey up there. Then we moved down here to South Florida, and they continued their hockey career. So we're a hockey family. I remember going to my dad. He worked for a law firm in Atlantic City, and I guess that law firm had tickets and stuff. He wasn't an attorney. He kind of helped attorneys prepare their cases, but whenever the partners, whoever, they'd kind of give them to the Buckleys. So I remember going to my dad, to Flyers games with my dad, and I remember going to a Flyers game with my sister Monica. I remember before we left, my dad's like, cover your mouth if a puck comes. She had gotten braces, and my parents were really worried about that. I shit you negative. Puck came straight at my sister Monica. She covered her mouth and she was okay. So fond memories. And that was, 70s, 80s, Philadelphia Flyers. It doesn't get any better than that, man. The Broad Street bullies. Like climbing into the stands, fighting people. It was just old school hockey. Watch the movie Slapshot, and it just reminds me of the Flyers games. So I loved hockey growing up, watching it on a big box TV, right? I can't even believe the fidelity. I wouldn't even recognize it. Like you look at some of the old games versus like HD today. So I was a hockey kid growing up. Obviously, we didn't have youth hockey growing up, man. There was no such thing as that. But so obviously my kids, big hockey family. Shout out to my bride, Susie, for being a hockey mom. Up at 6 a.m., kids at the rink, sleeping in the car. Great memories. When I had the time, I'd go on the hockey trips with my boys, and it was just great sport. So game 7, little pre with Biz and Wit and Sheldon and Obes and Scotty Upshaw, the Spittin' Chicklets guys and Missing Curfew guys. And, man, it was fun. It was really fun out in the parking lot beforehand. I got to be honest with you, man. 3-0 run out of the Panthers. I'm like, oh, my God, it's going to be a sweep. And then they started losing 8-1. It was a football score. Edmonton scored a touchdown. 8-1. I'm like, ooh. Then another loss. We were in Aspen. My daughter, Keely, who would rather get her teeth drilled than go to a hockey game, she went with the boys, though. It was incredible. Susie and I sitting in Aspen watching TV, and right behind the bench, wearing their Panther stuff and their No Fallen Heroes gear was Keely, Jack, and Matthew. So it was great seeing our kids right behind the bench. Loss. Oh, boy. 3-2, the series. Friday night at the Do Good Ranch in Colorado, I download Xfinity app. I'm sitting in my little hooch watching the beginning of the game as I head over to the main place to get ready for ceremony. Loss. Tied up 3-3. If you don't like hockey, choke yourself. This is the best hockey I've seen in my life. We won 3 in a row. They won 3 in a row. Game 7, Sunrise, Florida, man. Wow. The place was buzzing. And it was the best hockey game I've ever seen in my life. I was, we scored. First team to score like 92% of the time in the Stanley Cup Finals wins that game. Within like seconds, Edmonton came down and scored and tied it up. I'm like, okay. Second period. Panthers scored 2-1. Wow. Third period, man, 2-1 was the most incredible 20 minutes, man. My poor boy, Matthew. Everybody's standing in this rink. All 6 fans, right? Suck it up, Canada, and all you other hockey snobs. We're the capital now. The Panthers have 6 fans. That place was fucking packed and buzzing, baby. On our feet. My boy Matthew's sitting there curled up into a ball. I'm like, he's like, I can't look. Why do I care so much? I don't think he watched the third period. 2-1, man. Minute and a half left. I think they finally pulled Skinner, their goalie. And holy shit, what the longest minute and a half of my life, man. And Connor McDavid, arguably the best hockey player on the planet. Draisaitl, they were gassed, man. It was like Rocky. Cut me, Mick. In my eye. I can't see. They threw the kitchen sink at the Panthers, man, and from 10 seconds to 1 second, it was just absolute insanity and mayhem. Jumping around, the boys, everybody's crying, yelling. Matthew and Jack are hugging each other, crying. To be at a game, I've never done this before. I've never been to a Super Bowl or a World Series, or I'd rather get my teeth drilled than watch the NBA. But Game 7, Stanley Cup, 2024, with my sons and the organization. 4 years ago, Jack and I drove down to Sunrise, and we said, let's get a suite, man, for Top Gun options. Little did I know that Donald Trump had revoked the law that allowed businesses to deduct suites as a business expense. Moron. Needed to check with my accountant a little bit more than I did at the time. But we got it anyway. So when I found out, like 2 years into the suite, that wasn't a business expense, I changed it to the No Fallen Heroes Foundation to use it for charitable purposes. We used it for charitable purposes before that, gave it up to other charities and let people use it. But you see my point. What am I getting at? 4 years ago is when it all started. When Jack and I got our suite, the run started. President's Cup What's the President's Cup? It's the number one, the team that finishes with the number one record for that season. We won the President's Cup. Didn't go too far in the playoffs that year, but I digress. Then Vegas, Panthers, Stanley Cup last year, we lost, and then this year we won. And this year is the last year of the No Fallen Heroes Foundation Suite. It's a business, folks. God bless the Panthers, because it was obscene what they want for the suites now. And it's just not, I will take that money and throw it over the fence to provide healing grants for our heroes. It was a great, I got what I wanted. 4 years, got a Stanley Cup. That's enough. Matthew swore into the Jacksonville Air National Guard, Jackson College. As I said, Keely is at Top Gun down in Miami doing cheerleading stuff. So it just doesn't make sense. So we ended on a high note with the Panthers. Sunday parade down in Fort Lauderdale, down the beach. I got to see what the Commodore's up to. Carcillo, 2-time Stanley Cup champ. He's been to 2 parades. I wonder if he's been to a Stanley Cup parade in the back of a fighter jet, because we might kind of do a VFR flyby down the beach. That happens to be around the same time as the parade. So maybe we'll get Carcillo to his 3rd Stanley Cup parade, but in the backseat of a fighter jet. So congrats to South Florida. I love it for South Florida and our 6 fans. We are the hockey capital of the world, and it was incredible. So I had to get that out of the way. Not even going to talk about the presidential debate. I have nothing to say, and that should tell you everything. Why? Because we have more important things to talk about. Last Thursday, 17 incredible human beings, perfect strangers, essentially, showed up in Crawford, Colorado at the Do Good Ranch. It was awesome. Susie and I and Kat, my awesome sister Kia, has a place at the residences at the Nell, and she couldn't make it out for that week. And she said, "Hey, you guys want to use our place?" I said, "You know what? I do. I need I need a break, especially before this retreat." It worked. Thank you, God. All gratitude up to God. So, and we're like, "Yeah, we'll bring the kids out there." Jack had to work. Matthew had to work. Keely can't miss Top Gun cheerleading, or you're booted. I'm like, okay. So the 3 of us kind of went out there, and it was awesome. So much fun. Happened to be Aspen Food and Wine. I'm at the top of Aspen Mountain, getting ready to go for a hike, wearing my Maverick Mind t-shirt. I hear, "Are you Whiz?" I'm like, I'm at 11,000 feet at the top of Aspen Mountain. Yeah. Great American guy. The guy runs Cow Steaks. Best friends with Dustin Lynch. Oh my God, man, I'm Dustin Lynch's buddy. And what a small universe. And we didn't go for Aspen Food and Wine. First of all, it's impossible to get tickets, and they're expensive and all sorts of shit. But oh my God, we're here for Aspen Food and Wine, and his beautiful bride and his 2 kids were with him. His bride was a former Broward Sheriff's officer who also interacted or was the liaison with the Broward Sheriff's Officers Association, which Susie and I are members of. It was a total God moment, top of Aspen. They said, and this was Sunday, "What are you guys doing later?" "Oh, we're going for a hike." "Nah, come on down. We're an exhibitor. We have steak booth, and we got credentials for you guys." Wow. Went down and walked around with the beautiful people at the Aspen Food and Wine Festival. So that was great. And it was 2.5 hours, like noon to 2:30 or 3, which was perfect. I don't know how people go from like Friday to Sunday. There's no way in hell, especially since I really don't drink anymore. A couple sips of wine is some cool stuff type of thing I can do. Their steak is absolutely incredible. K-O-W, Cow Steaks. What a God moment. Okay. So, in Aspen, my buddy Jeff Posey was going to get me a ride, a flight from Rifle down to Crawford, 45 miles as the crow flies, if that. But he had Achilles tendon surgery out of the blue, and he was trying to get me a ride in one of the Aspen Flight Academy, airplanes. He helps run with Sheldon, the Aspen Flight Academy. All their CFIs were busy and the planes were taken up. I'm like, oh crap. But his one of his workers, Mike, who helped me out with my fighter jet in Aspen when we were out there. Great crew chief for me. He's like, I'll drive you down. So I've never seen a more beautiful drive in my life. From Aspen down through the mountains along the, just flew out of my head, whatever river, down to Crawford. One of the most breathtaking rides of my life. It was great. It was a perfect grounding experience to get me down to the Do Good Ranch and this retreat. Some incredible prep work before this retreat from the facilitators, from Tim, who was essentially the OIC, the officer in charge, all the other facilitators, Yvette, Luke, Lance, Nicole, me. A lot of good pre-work. Pre-work is a must, as you all know. I'm going to bring up some of the pre-work because you're going to be blown away by what I have to tell you. On one of the Zoom calls that I was able to attend, I had some scheduling issues with other ones. On one of the Zoom calls, it was an intro call as everybody went around and introduced themselves. They came to a guy named John. And when John started to speak, it was clear this man had a significant speech impediment. Brutal. 3 words a minute type of thing. As he speaks, it appears he's choking, like, having to come out and force words like he can't breathe. I'm like, oh, for the love of God and all things holy. I had no clue about his background and it was very hard to understand him. Hold on to that. So Thursday, let's get back to that. I love being a facilitator now. It's like being a parent on Christmas Eve. The nervous excitement of these people showing up, shaking hands, meeting each other for the first time, and all the facilitators kind of looking at each other, just smiling like, man, they have no idea what's coming. We have no idea what's coming. Let me give you a better analogy. I feel like a dad on Christmas morning, at least in the Buckley household, because the kids don't know what they're going to get, and neither do I. As they open their presents, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Oh, it's from Santa. It's from the both of us. And my wife will look at me like, yeah. So anyway, that's the feeling as a facilitator. You know something incredible is going to happen. You just don't know what it is going to be. Neither do they. I will tell you without a doubt, this was the most incredible experience that I've observed. My medicine experiences were the most incredible experiences of my life as an individual. But listen to this. We got all seasons again, man. It didn't snow like it did in October. In October, our first retreat in the United States at the Do Good Ranch, we got a change of seasons. It was hot, then it rained, then it snowed. The snow stuck. The next day it was spring. We got some rain out there, man. And everybody's looking at me like, nice job bringing the rain from South Florida, because it's rained out here. But it was beautiful on the plains and the mountains to see the storms and the lightning. It just doesn't get any better than that. So, sharing circle, welcome aboard type of thing again, John. Just brutal. And you can see it in the guy's eyes. I mean, just, you can tell, just good soul. So, Friday night ceremony, we had to move indoors in the big complex. We wanted to be outside. We wanted to be down by the lake. It's supposed to be a full moon. It was the equinox and it was a full moon. You do not get any better than that. Medicine work under a full moon, longest day of the year type of thing. It was what's it called? A rose moon or red moon or something. I forget. It was really cool. A little rainy during the day. We're like, all right, let's contingency plan, get everybody kind of staged inside. Medicine ceremony. And as a facilitator, it's really interesting, man, because it's quiet at first, right? People take the medicine, they go to their mats, they kind of get in their one-man luge, and you kind of wait. The music is going, and we're just kind of walking around, making sure everybody's good to go. And then the Battle of Britain starts. Some purging, some yelling, screaming, laughter. I mean, people start the medicine, and at the first hour, I like to tell people the medicine's kind of doing an inventory. With the ibogaine, I absolutely felt the inventory. Like it's going in and saying, all right, here we go. This is what we need to work on. As I'm doing my rounds, so there's like a big kind of garage type of area. And then there, the kitchen, living room, huge living room. Some folks had moved to get some more space over to the couch. And a couple of the females on the retreat, veterans, first responders, victims of MST, military sexual trauma. You can be the farthest point on the other side of the globe from hostilities, so to speak, getting shot at, horrible combat, and still suffer hostilities from your own people. So we had a mix of that. I bring that up because there was a what a great soul female. Not going to use names or anything like that. I can use the 9/11 guy's name, but everybody else, I'll leave it generic. But doing my rounds, making sure people are good. Facilitators were incredible, man. Just kind of like lifeguards going around. And lady, and I think Nicole and I collided near this lady, and asked, can we go outside, or I'd like to sit outside now. It had stopped raining, and you would not believe the sky. The moon rose like the sun from behind the mountains. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. The stars, there's no light pollution in Crawford like a city. The sky, the stars, some clouds still. Spectacular. And we kind of helped her stand up. And Nicole was kind of talking to her first, and I was just kind of going to keep on moving. And Nicole kind of grabbed me and said, hey, "Can you help here?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, of course." And I'll tell you why in a couple minutes why that happened. So, we walked outside, and Nicole said, you sit with her here. So we sat in a chair, and I went and got her a big blanket. It was cold. I mean, even summer at night in Colorado, it was cold, man. And just kind of, sat there. Apparently, a rape victim. Some of the masculine energy in the other room can be a little much, right? We got hardcore vets, man, combat veterans with a lot of energy, masculine energy. So kind of a tough, dog fight. So apparently what had happened when, she asked Nicole, like, "Hey, can I go sit outside?" I was walking by, and she said to Nicole, "He looks safe. Can he help me?" I didn't hear this, obviously, but that's why when we got outside, and I sat her down, gave her a blanket, and was getting up to go continue doing my rounds. Nicole said, No, why don't you sit here? And I will be totally honest with you, I felt awkward. I'm like, oh my God, is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this okay? Knowing some of her trauma. It turned out the universe, God, put me exactly where I needed to be in that moment. Because things really started popping off. I'm going to save some of the details because I want to focus on John. But man, hats off to all of the facilitators. Lot of stuff, man. Lot of stuff going on. Chicken, Christian Macklin, my brother, Denver firefighter in the leadership position. He sat with the medicine in October. What did he do? He's an apostle. Went back to his department and said, hey, man, I put the mask on me, and this is what happened. He brought 3 buddies, 3 incredible human beings, man. I could not be more proud of my brother Chicken. But facilitating Chicken had his hands full, along with Luke, with a beautiful soul who was in a lot of pain, man. And they were in it, man, for hours with this guy. Jeremy, Dr. J, in it with another guy. And it's funny because I learned to look at the elders like a Dr. J, because he just kind of smiles. He's got this smile on his face as everything's kind of pretty intense with 17 people. And the next day I'm like, dude, he's like, because I know, first of all, everything that's happening is exactly what is supposed to be happening. And I also know in a couple hours or hours, everything's going to be perfect. This is what's needed. Getting rid of these demons. All of this, I've seen it for decades, and this is how it goes. I'm like, that makes me feel better, because I'm hanging with this lady, and she asked, can I put my head on your shoulder? I'm like, sure. And then this woman cried for hours as I held her sleeping bag, Moon. She laughs at times. She was talking, and man, she released so much trauma. I'm in this weird position on this metal chair, and I remember like having tears in my eyes. I'm like, man, this is so painful right now, physically in the position I'm in. But the energy being released from this woman, the sorrow, the rage, sadness, the pain, it was pretty incredible. Helped her go eventually back inside so she could kind of lay down. Absolutely. Whew. Now, if you've been in a conga line in the Bahamas for the past 25 minutes, sit up straight and listen. After I dropped her off, got up to go do some more rounds. John, the gentleman with the speech impediment, here's his story. He was in the first tower on 9/11 that was hit. 37th floor. Boom. Barely escapes with his life. Tower comes down, smell, the dirt, the people jumping. He's a 9/11 survivor. Since the attacks, that's when the speech problem started. For most of his life, normal guy, speaking like I'm talking to you right now. The attacks did that to him. Doing my rounds, I passed the couch, one of the couches where he's laying. This guy rolls over and kind of tugs on my leg as I'm walking by, and he rolls over and he looks at me and he says, "Hey, Whiz, can I have some fruit?" As clear as that. I said, "Yeah, John, you can have some fruit." So I went and got him some fruit, man. Came back and gave him some fruit. I've never seen anything like that in my life. I was honored to be a part of that. he eventually went back in the other room and, back on his mat. And then he had his face buried in a bucket. And that man purged and purged and purged. And a reminder, folks, purging isn't vomiting. It's an energy release. Some people purge by crying. Some people purge by yawning. Some people purge by kind of a retch. And since they had fasted a little bit, there ain't no, usually it ain't stuff in my experience. So let's fast forward a little bit because I want to stick with John to the next day. Sitting on that same couch. I sat next to John. He was just sitting up. Half of his speech impediment was apparent. It was not as bad as before. It wasn't as clear as on the medicine. But he looked at me and he pointed at his head and he said, "Now I know it's here and it's not here." And he pointed at his throat. And then he told me, he said, it was the smell. And I just kind of looked and he said, my purging was getting rid of the smell of that day. He said, I got rid of it. 24 years later, he said, I got rid of the smell. Man. So tell me, these are drugs. Tell me that didn't happen. Tell me why these medicines are illegal. Give me an answer. Medicines that have been put on this planet by God and used for thousands and thousands of years to heal us. I told these folks, I said, hey, on your integration day, on your discovery day, just write in your, laugh, cry, sleep, eat, do all those again in the opposite order. Journal. Just write. Even if you don't know what you're writing, years from now, you might be able to get something. That happened to me. My first journal, I'll show it to you, man. One of those chicken scratch entries because I couldn't set the word apostle. And obviously I know what that means now. I bring that up because John looked at me and he said, nobody in the 9/11 groups that he's in, 9/11 survivors and all this stuff, he said, not that I know of, he said, nobody has told me or any of us about the healing power of these medicines. Are you fucking kidding me? Tunnel to Towers, the 9/11 this, the hundreds of millions of dollars some of these charities have. Not a fucking word about the healing power of psychedelic assisted therapy. Are you insane? This incredible human being, his eyes were they were so blue. This human looked at me, John, 9/11 survivor, and said, I am going to do it, Whiz. I will be the guy. And I looked at him and I said, you're the apostle for your tribe. Guys texted me a bunch since the retreat. Whew. I said, brother, be the change you want to see. I told him, go and put the ladder down. Put the ladder down to your tribe. Help those 9/11 survivors who are suffering. You know what he also told me, and I just remembered this? He said, 2 months ago, one of my best friends killed himself. And he said, had he known about this, he would be here. And I looked at him and I said, John, man, do not let his transition be in vain. And he said, it won't, I promise. Man. Ineffable, right? The SAT word that I've taught you, that I had to learn. You can't put into words. I have failed at trying to convey or put into words what I experienced and what I saw. The next day, the facilitators, everybody's like, did you see John? I'm like, yeah, man, I got him some fucking fruit. It was the best fruit run I've ever had in my life. And the fact that man, he pointed, it's in here and it's not here. Woo! Going to also share a buddy that came from his tribe, from Jersey, my tribe, Brian. Brian's 21-year-old son was murdered. This man looked like a man whose 21-year-old son was murdered. You wouldn't believe the pain that I saw this man in and then out of. He was the wailing, it's just hard to explain. And Doc, one of our docs, and I think it was Lance, spent a lot of time with him, man. The purging, they held space. I mean, Chicken was over here with Luke, and I think it was Lance and Doc with him. I had the one lady. But to hear Brian's suffering and then redemption, it really is, ladies and gentlemen, Joseph Campbell's, it on the medicine, it's a hero's journey. I remember laughing after my second ibogaine experience. I'm like, it's so funny, man, because the medicine's not giving you a 1-minute journey. Like, you love your wife and kids, go home and stop drinking. Ta-da! Wake up. It's a fucking court case. It's the most incredible presentation. The production values, Oscar worthy. But it's a hero's journey. That's why, Jeremy kind of just, he's like, man, when shit's kind of looking a little nuts, I just smile because I know we're almost out of this part of it. But that next day in the sharing circle, Brian sharing what he released about his son and how much at peace he was worth the price of admission. Been texting with Brian, sent him my book, coin, the merch. I love these people. And I told them that. 17 of you. And it's interesting because, kind of the brief before the medicine, we all got to talk. And I said, I am so proud of you for your courage. And sitting here tonight, you have no idea what I'm talking about, but you will. Do you know how much courage it takes to do some pre-work, hop on an airliner, go to a ranch in Colorado and put your trust in us in these medicines? Courageous, bravery, courage. Because in the sharing circle before the medicine, everybody kind of went around and we heard about 9/11. We heard about the son being murdered. We heard about the rapes and the sexual assaults. Heard about the alcoholics. And when it got to me, I had to remind these people. Because one of the guys joked, he's like, man, fucked up town, population us. And it's funny, right? Everybody laughed. I get it. I laugh too. But I'm like, I got to remind every one of you. especially before you go sit with the medicine. You're perfect. Do not ever forget that. Underneath your 9/11, your son's murder, rape, that ain't you. That is not yours. And you're going to get rid of it. I promise you. Because underneath the bullshit is perfection. God does not make imperfect things. And it's so cool to see the people before the medicine looking at me talk like that. And I'm like, I promise you. And then the next day and the day we left, people coming up to me like, man, you nailed it. You nailed it. I'm honored. I'm humbled to be doing this work. 17 people showed up carrying a lot of shit. Man, they left a lot of shit. That's a lot too, man. I get now as I'm still like I started. It was a weird 24, 48 hours, man, from that stuff to Stanley Cup game. I'm like, I'm still, I need a couple days. I'm finally taking a couple days to unfornicate myself. Because that's so much energy and trauma and stuff moving, and you have to protect yourself too, or you take it on, man. I understand this. I read my facilitator journals. I got, you know me, man. If I'm going to be a fucking instructor pilot, I'm going to be the best. So I got some me work to do, which I will do. And I want to remind you all of something. Because this is it's getting to be a very crowded space, good and bad. And I'll lead with the bad first. I will remind you, at least for me, the more medicine work that I do, the less I know. You run into a Shambro or a this or that, I got all the answers or that. Oh my God, no. After this retreat, I know even less. And that is a beautiful thing. To think that you can even know God or the concept or it's so powerful. And that's a beautiful thing. You don't have to necessarily have knowledge. You can have experience. I'll never forget Melanie Luttrell, Marcus Luttrell's beautiful bride. She was very worried about Marcus going to sit with this medicine. Demon, she was indoctrinated. She makes the Pope look Jewish. They go to church multiple times, Catholic church outside of Houston, they grow the flowers for the church on the ranch. But when Marcus came back, she's like, wow. Then she went and sat with the medicine. And man, she walked me into an ambush. So how'd the medicine go? Whiz, I lost my faith. I'm like, oh my God, no. She said, I don't need it anymore. I have experience. I have wisdom. Wow. Again, I love these people though on social media and it's demons and devils and voodoo and I love you. I love you. It's ignorance and it's ego. Before organized religion came along, focused on power and money, they used these medicines to commune with source, with the divine, with truth, with our creator. I prefer God or the universe on their own, man. And the women did it. The women were the medicine. They were connected to source. Any human that can make another human is pretty damn godly, in my opinion. What a gift. So the women were the medicine women. They allowed you to connect with source. Hello, Christianity. Women, second-class citizens. God talks to me in my funny robe and hat, and I'll tell you what it said to me and pay me 10% of what you make. No, thank you. absolutely blown away by this last healing retreat. Each one of them is its own obvious experience. Me and the boys, Slider, Bart, Sledge, Stas. I mean, everybody, Marcus, JT, JJ, Robert, Winthorpe, everything, Doc, Rosie, Arrow, Smurf, Susie. All of these experiences have their own characteristics, but this one, man, was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. Think we're going back to the ranch in September. And then I think we're going out to Sedona. The last week in October will be an all-female retreat. First week in November, back-to-back, will be a mixed retreat. And I believe we will be sitting with Iboga. I believe, if my phone, when I was in it last week, Arizona, it's waiting for the governor's signature. So Oregon, Colorado, Arizona, California, what the actual fuck is wrong with you? For the fourth time, it's failed. Clearly, you have higher priorities than saving and changing the lives of our veterans, first responders, and their families. 4 times, Gavin. Maybe you were more focused on replacing Joe. California, you're a disgrace. I would have thought the land of fruits and nuts would have been on the leading edge of this. It's a shit show. DeSantis, I'm talking to you, fellow Navy veteran. Where are you? You a drugs are bad Republican? You're a Navy veteran. Texas, Florida, California, 1, 2, 3, whatever order of the highest veteran population. You are lagging behind, Governor. Get in the fight. Come to a retreat, Governor. See what I saw this past weekend. Get out of your books. Get away from your aides. Oh, drugs are bad. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of DC. I'm sick of the politics around these medicines. I'm telling you, man. And the ICER came out with its final report on MDMA, the whole MDMA bullshit. I don't know, folks. I think it's a coin flip, 50-50. I don't know. August 11th, whether they're going to approve MDMA for therapeutic use after the advisory committee 9-2 ruled 9-2 or 10-1. There was like 2 different votes, whatever. It went down in flames. Take a look at the bios of the people on that. One works for like Janssen, the pharmacy. I'm not even going to get into it. I can't get into it. It gets my blood pressure going. We haven't tried anything new in decades to combat trauma, to treat PTS. You drop the D. It's an injury, not a disorder. We've done nothing. We have something where countless veterans have said it saved my life, it changed my life. Oh, Follow the money. I hate saying that, man, but it's what is this, your first day on the planet Earth, Whiz? I get it. Follow the money. Big pharma, alcohol, tobacco. Ain't nobody wants any of this. Oh, one of the guy, raging alcoholic. That next day, he's like, Whiz, I think even the thought of alcohol right now makes me want to retch. I'm like, welcome to the other side, my brother. The medicine gives you a Control-Alt-Delete moment, a clean piece of paper. The window in the books for psilocybin is 2 to 3 weeks. They call it the magic window. You're going to go home raw, open, clean piece of paper. What you do with that clean piece of paper is on you. This is why we call it work. If you go back to the same bullshit, you're going to have a tough time. If you come back and change habit patterns and attitudes and behaviors, success. I reminded the folks on our sharing day, I said 5% is here, is the medicine. 95% is the integration. What you do with what happened here. I'd even go higher on that number, man. I think it's like 1%, 99, but you get what I'm saying. The vast majority of the work is when you get home. Otherwise, it was an experience. Sunday morning, hugging, crying, saying goodbye. Ain't no saying goodbye. We are a tribe. There was 23 of us total. I believe 23 to 25 because the rest were the facilitators. But man, we got our group picture. Go check out at official _ Whiz Buckley. You can go see my reel with all the pictures from the retreat. We took a big group picture. The cook was incredible. Ty out at the ranch, helping out with everything in the background. The support staff, absolutely incredible people. Kyle Quincy, NHL, great human. Dr. J, obviously Jeremy. He's my fellow board member at MyCruDoses. Make sure you go to mycrudoses.com, folks. Enjoy holy water. Liquid death. Who the fuck wants to drink liquid death? How about some holy water instead? And it's not just water in a can. The nootropics, go look at the ingredients in holy water, man. I did my 60-minute hot fusion flow this morning. I got that holy water afterwards, man. Go look at the ingredients of our holy water products, man. Or stick with your liquid death. So great staff, but saying goodbye Sunday, man, it's just so cool to see. Taking the before and the after pics, the before when they show up and then when they leave. And I know some of you are sitting here going, that can't happen in the span of 3.5 days or whatever. Come check it out. Quick reminder, folks, that the No Fallen Heroes Foundation has a wingman program. Civilians, we actually have a bunch now, reach out and say, can I go on a healing retreat with you? Yes. You got to put the ladder down. You got to bring along a veteran, a first responder, or a family member. They don't need to know you sponsored them, or it can be a separate retreat. We just ask that you put the ladder down. I think, what was it, $3,000 or a little less? I forget what it is. It total cost, folks, but it's in that ballpark. Next on my radar is to jump on a plane with my brother Daniel and head out to Oregon. He's been putting in the work out in Oregon, launching our first retreat center. I'm an investor in that, obviously full disclosure. And he's been doing some incredible work. Obviously, we give grants to our heroes and stuff like that. But other folks, civilians, if you can't do the wingman program and sponsor somebody else, ain't no worries, baby. You can still heal. Go to Oregon. Go to one of our clinics in Oregon. Daniel D. Carcillo, CARCILLO @gmail.com. Shoot Daniel an email. Daniel, heard Whiz on his podcast. I want to go out to Oregon and heal. You go look at his Instagram, Daniel Carcillo. You should see the Airbnbs. Oh my God, Oregon's beautiful. The hiking they do, the cooking that Daniel does, the retreat center where you do the medicine. It's pretty cool. So you have two choices. Go to the Do Good Ranch in Colorado, if it doesn't rain, out in nature, or head to Oregon, out in nature. But I think the medicine facility, you're kind of indoors, but I think you can, obviously there's an outdoors and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is full nature can be the Do Good Ranch, and half nature can be Oregon. Good stuff. Absolutely good stuff. Like I said, I'm honored, humbled to be doing this work. I'm going to have to ask you to pitch into the fight, man. Spread this podcast. Spread this content. Go to our Instagram. Go to our YouTube channel. Please take this video and forward it to your friends. If it hits one person and we can save them, one person. There's another guy who's like, don't want to kill myself anymore. Wow. The generational hand grenade of a suicide is just, it's a horror. If we can help save one life, the world is a different place. It's better. This world is better within it, with you in it. What I just debriefed you on proves to you that healing is possible. You do not have to keep suffering. Healing is possible. Let me caveat that with one more time. I say it almost every podcast, and I'll say it on this one. These medicines are not for everybody. Absolutely not. There are so many different healing modalities. Climbing a mountain in Nepal, walking on the beach, hot yoga this morning, breath work, mindfulness, meditation, flying a jet. Find something to help you heal. I often say that radical trauma might need radical healing, and this obviously can be considered radical healing. But if nothing else working, maybe it's time to try something new. I feel so good after this retreat. I got to take a couple days to shed the retreat, the Panthers, the highs, the lows. I'm going to go take a couple days to decompress. But this is the way. If this is work, you can sign me up for this work for the rest of my life. I hope you feel a little bit better after listening to me today, knowing that John, that Brian, that another beautiful lady, beautiful soul, and 14 other people are new people today. I hope that makes you a little happy. Finally, the medicine calls to you. If you listen to this podcast and you said, it's calling to you. If you listen to this podcast and you said, no fucking way, it's not calling to you. It is that simple. I love you either way, and I'm here for you if I can be of service in any way. I got to get going, man. This was a good one. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hug your loved ones, man. Hug your fur babies, whoever it is. Spread some love throughout the world because we need it. Love is all there is. Have a great rest of your day. Happy hunting. Make sure you're hedged as the market's at record highs. Fights on. Namaste and Basi. Whiz out.